We may look on our time as the moment civilization was transformed.
Yes, I think we're in a transformative era, and I think we're going to see transformations of a lot of our institutions, a lot of our ways of doing business. The skill that we need to cultivate is innovation.
Yeah, there's two experiences that the Naval Academy provides to midshipmen I think are really important in the development of this mental agility which leads to innovation. First is LREX, which is an acronym for Language, Regional Expertise, and Culture, LREC, immersions. On the side of Capstones, it's a complementary experience that structures the learning in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics environment.
It's only like 3% shy.
That again, stress them, challenge them in ways that force critical and creative thinking, and therefore innovation. In the last episode, we examined the role of innovation, how the push for technological superiority shapes the contours of America's competition with China.
积聚力量，进行原创性、引领性科技攻关，坚决打赢关键核心技术攻坚战。
But there is a danger, a kind of seductive simplicity, in believing this contest will be decided by machines alone. That better technology inevitably yields better weapons, and that better weapons will restore deterrence, like a law of physics. But this is not just a race for tools. It is a race for purpose, for meaning, for advantage that transcends circuitry and code. This is, after all, a great power competition, not simply of arms, but of will, resolve, and adaptability that leads to winning. And in this episode, we shift our focus from invention to competition itself, the kind that plays out not only in the global arena, but in the quiet corridors of Annapolis, on the fields of play, in the minds of midshipmen, in the capstones they design, defend, and deliver. And so as we begin again, we return to Hopper Hall.
These are all projects sponsored by SOCOM Ignite, a program out of MIT Lincoln Labs.
We had a record attendance level at Capstone Day this year.
Another great presentation here for you today. Gentlemen, ladies, I don't know where you're going to sit. There's some room on the floor right there if you want to join in. It's a packed crowd.
It was truly standing room only in so many of the rooms. And part of that is all the external guests we had, but part of it is the interest of the brigade of midshipmen that was there. And it really gave an electric atmosphere, a sense that something really important was going on, something that you would want to be part of. That's an important part of that cycle, right? Because now we're getting those underclass excited about where their education go, excited about the kinds of problems they'd like to solve, and hopefully they can make a connection as to why they have to take plebe chemistry and why they're taking calculus, and how those are the building blocks or the stepping stones that are going to enable them to participate in these kind of open-ended inquiry efforts that we see at Capstone Day. There's so many people who don't quite realize what we are. Are we a military training facility? Are we an undergraduate-only institution? But we're all those things, and Capstone Day helps us bring that together in a way that a lot of people, a lot of our external partners or people who want to partner with us maybe didn't realize. I had so many conversations with people from industry and other parts of government who said, wow, I never knew this kind of activity was going on here at the Naval Academy. I never knew midshipmen worked on problems like this. I never knew that you had people working on lasers or quantum computing or cyber infrastructure. And now one of our challenges, and it's a good problem to have, is to try to capitalize on those opportunities.
I sort of feel like this is a little bit like, if you build it, they will come.
To go forward and make those partnerships and use those connections and those resources to kind of reinvest or replant that innovation effort for next cycle, for next year.
Thanks, Joel.
So we've had a lot of conversations about competition. What is great power competition? What's our relationship to that competition, to our adversaries? How do we frame this?
We can start. It's 9 o'clock.
Well, having competitions here in this environment are great preparation for life after the academy, for life out there in the fleet.
Hello.
And in this case, we're setting that bar really, really high. So each of these capstones is weighed not merely on their own merits, but they're weighed against the others who have entered into this competition.
We have at least 2 awards to definitely decide about.
Stepping back from the academy, the whole innovation, I'll call it an ecosystem, is a competition, right? It's a competition for users or resources or investment or whatever it is. So as much as possible, we want to mimic that broader innovation ecosystem in industry and society. As much as possible, we want to capture that in the capstone process.
The simulation was very well done, and the visualizations were compelling. I thought he did a really good job.
Every year we have a Best Project Award. It was a dense presentation in a good way, meaning like you could tell there was a lot of work she did.
Settle this up. We have 2 proper awards and have this done.
And if we only had one project, that's the best project.
That's the best project that we all agree.
Agreed.
Everybody's in cool. Perfect. When there is a good opportunity.
I'm a big believer that really interesting innovations don't always happen in the most beautiful and palatial office building. It's often about the people and the time and the attitude more than it's about the facility itself. Gritty bars and clubs like where the Beatles got their start.
We proudly present the Beatles!
The cavern, and you know, there's something about that small standing room only, you know, smoke-filled room with no windows, right? It brings a feeling of like intensity and purpose, I think, to the mission. Surely, I think SWAT-C is a great example.
That place, driven by purpose, charged with quiet intensity, sits just next door, within the walls of Nimitz Library. You wouldn't notice it at first, but down a flight of stairs, along a hallway on the ground floor, it waits. In this modest space, innovation meets rivalry. Competition becomes tangible. They call it SWAT-C, and what happens inside is a reflection of something far larger, the testing of midshipmen and machines.
SWAT-C stands for Squad with Autonomous Teammates. So it's a squad of humans, and this idea that you'll have teammates or part of the squad, truly part, not just a piece of equipment, but truly baked into the mindset, the tactics, the strategies of how this small squad operates, will be this idea that there's some autonomy there.
It's a really, really exciting time for you guys to be here.
The most fun part about this team is that we're just given a lot of technology and hands are taken off. It's, hey midshipman, here's a drone, do something with it.
All stations be advised, final group is launching, over.
And we get to think, we get to apply all that critical thinking that the Naval Academy wants us to develop and come up with ways to use this technology, experiment with this technology.
I have like 30 minutes more flight time and a couple of batteries. So if anyone wants to actually fly, I think we can.
You put them in there, that's great, yeah.
We get a new technology and then we figure it out within a few weeks. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of people staying here after class, late, in their free time. We do research, we do trial and error, and we figure it out within a few weeks so we can go and test it on our field exercise days.
It's a great example of this innovation cycle where you're trying to connect the end user to the product and have this tight and frequently closed feedback loop.
Hoffman, Gilbert, do you have a position update on the first team for me? Over.
Gilbert, Hoffman, no, I'm having really bad connectivity with my drone, over.
So I give you this product and you go out and use it, and then at the end of the day, can you tell me what you did and didn't like about it?
No, it's airborne, it's just being finicky, over.
Copy, out.
You know, and then I could quickly go and respond and change the software and make some adjustments.
I think the chance to work with industry partners on making technology better. It's a really interesting aspect of being on the team. because we have some electronic warfare technology that we're working with.
The backpackable electronic attack module, it's basically a supercomputer on your back.
A company just to learn how to use it, but at the same time they have taken some of our feedback about the systems, and so they've made changes to the physical technology and the software of that technology based on our recommendations. And this is a piece of technology that's actually being used in the fleet by real fleet units. And so the fact that we had an impact on what a fleet unit is using is, I feel like that's something that you can't really get anywhere else other than this team as a midshipman.
You can actually be on the cutting edge of this technology. It's not going to be some massive government group that's funded by the agency that no one knows about that's getting to this cutting edge stuff. It's going to be folks like you who are fooling around with this kind of equipment and wondering like, oh, I wonder if we did this or change this a little bit, if that's going to work. And we go across the naval station, we try it, and it works. Sure enough, it works. You are going to be at the cutting edge.
This team has really helped me prepare for just the idea of a great power competition, just because I think the mindset that I've gained from being on this team is that nothing truly is set in stone. Training myself and learning how to think outside of our box and our tactics is going to be really helpful, because if I'm ever in a situation where the tactics that we're using and that we know really well aren't working, then I feel like I'll have a better ability to think beyond that and try to not stay confined within those lines.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone. Appreciate your time.
It's one thing to prepare for great power competition, another to feel its weight. Rivalry has a way of emerging, as it has with China. In China, like Army, it's a pretty good parallel in that. At the Naval Academy, that dynamic takes a familiar shape, West Point. For the midshipmen of SWAT-C, it's called the Human-Robot Teaming Exercise.
So I've been a part of SWAT-C since my plebe year. What it started as was an Office of Naval Research experiment where they would give us a scenario.
Say, if we get something here.
Hey, Army's going to defend this position. We want to see you attack it, or we want to see you seize it. Here's some cool tech. Let's see what you do. And then this spring, we went up to West Point and they hosted the physical in-person competition.
We're out here, Navy versus West Point. What is the reason why you're out here?
I think there's two big reasons for
So what it looked like on Friday morning was it was a 6-hour recon counter recon.
The time is on our side. They have 2 hours and 30 minutes to get here, clear it, destroy or capture our objective, and get out.
Each side has a few mission tasks. We need to find a command post, we need to find a listening post, observation post, and we need to find West Point soldiers.
I'm just gonna land the drone because it's not how it is.
So one of the goals was to find the other team's command post while keeping yours hidden. So we have a lot of thermal reduction gear. We have thermal ghillie suits and also just thermal blankets. So having practiced with them here, realizing what an advantage they were, put our people in them, and we also covered all of our equipment that was at the command post with the thermal blankets. So Army was not able to find our command post as easily because it was camouflaged both visibly and thermally. And we were able to find their command post, so we ended up winning that.
So you're gonna fire this saw.
We very soundly beat Army on the second day of competition. They were able to get through our lines, but what we saw was how quickly technology can change things. We had several fire teams dispersed in kind of a picket line, and a machine gun squad set up on the defensive objective. And Army was able to patrol through our lines. Because it was a rather large battle space. But we saw them with one drone. One time. And we quickly reoriented.
All of our electronic warfare assets and our drones. Remember that they're here to help you. Now it's time to actually put those weapon systems in play
We were able to basically destroy them in about 5 minutes with one drone. That's all it took, was one drone seeing a deer running through the woods, realizing a human probably pushed that deer somewhere, finding it, and we were able to rout Army very quickly.
Every challenge! Every day!
So having beat them was the best feeling.
I think, to me, the biggest thing that I want to pick up from where Jeremiah left off was how he felt after the competition that we had against West Point. And I had a much different reaction. Was I happy? I guess you could say that, but for me it was more of like relief that I did my job. You know, they tell us at the Naval Academy, they tell us at West Point, I had some experience there too, that failure is a part of learning. And if you don't get to fail, then are you really completing that process?
Learning through failure is guaranteed to happen in real, high-stakes competition. That's why the Naval Academy places such weight on competitive athletics. It's not for the trophies, but for the lessons in resilience, resolve, and the agility that will make all the difference in great power competition. It's within this crucible that we find the story of midshipman Tori DiCarlo.
The practice field is where we prepare for any opponent, especially Army. We're out there knowing that it's a big game coming up, focusing on our game plan. It's definitely a rivalry because it's our focus every year. It's written all over our uniforms. We say it every day. Well, if you're walking ever in the halls of Bancroft, every freshman has to square their corners in a certain way and either say,
Sir, beat Army, sir.
Ma'am, go Navy, ma'am, or Sir, beat Army, sir.
Sir, beat Army, sir.
So you're hearing it constantly.
Sir, beat Army, sir.
You've manifested it in the way you have said you're gonna beat Army, you're gonna beat them, and you keep saying it, and then when it's true, that's what makes it so special.
I think we've all dreamed of playing in this game, like, since we committed here, so just soak it all in.
Having a worthy opponent like Army is incredibly useful because they serve as an avatar for the type of peer competition we can experience in the Indo-Pacific theater of operations somewhere down the road.
When we say beat Army, a lot of times we say beat China, just as it's kind of a motivation. It's a reminder of the bigger picture of why we're here. The bigger picture is outcompeting the real enemy and adversary in life, and that's what we're all preparing to do. It's why we're all here to become naval officers. So when we say beat Army, it just means be the best you absolutely can be to beat any adversary, and that's why we kind of say beat China too sometimes in there.
Ball Control Maryland, number 11, Alyssa Daly. A sophomore.
And just as Army makes adjustments to what we're doing on the field or on the court or on the mat, China will be constantly making adjustments. The stakes are going to be much higher, but the parallel competition, that carries over. And it's going to be a really important lesson to these young men and women, that the lessons they learned in athletics are going to carry over into their lives in the fleet.
Go Army, go Navy, beat everybody. Here we go.
The start of the game, Army essentially slapped us in the face.
Fire stars! And Army, 3-0.
3-0 is where it starts to get panic.
Now Taser Riley, fire stars! As Army continues to stunt at 7-0.
7-0, it's already gone wrong. Our plan was to run the plays we'd been set up with all season, but their draw unit and their attack and their defense swarm our draw taker. And we weren't ready to adapt to that.
Gage right here, Gage!
We weren't ready to change our game plan. We had one plan that we were ready to stick to, and when it didn't work right away, we were in a panic.
The final tally, Army 14, Navy 12.
I think for me, The biggest thing I've learned was that the opponent doesn't care about you, about what you're feeling, how tired you are, how much you hurt, any other distractions. The enemy is ready for you and wants you at your best, at your worst. They don't care. So you need to bring everything every day, no matter if you feel like you have it or not. And that's why I'm so grateful for sports, because you can't just not go to practice if you're feeling sick or tired. You still gotta go. That loss was a reminder not to give up quite yet. There's still time to go on the wall. It's still not over. Wall ball is to practice catching and throwing. That's all it is. For me, wall ball is getting better at the simplest fundamental of my game. I do this before or after basically every practice. I look at the wall we use and I just see all the hard days I had when I still decided to do wall ball, and how it's actually become such a coping mechanism to keep working when you don't want to, because that's how you get better.
When you see a student athlete like Tori on the wall, the most remarkable thing about that moment is her utter focus on the task at hand. She is building will to succeed. That's essential in competition. Athletics competition, or ultimately warfighting.
The question that made me really think, and that I'm definitely going to reflect more on after this, is the connection to how playing lacrosse, my experience, is going to propel me and prepare me in the fleet. I told you I was going to reflect and thinking about the Army-Navy rivalry and how that relates to the great power competition. The quote that came to mind is, here, I'll read it for you. General Douglas MacArthur, "Upon the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that upon other fields, on other days, will bear the fruits of victory." To me, that's what it's all about. The athletic field now is where we sow the seeds of character, grit, and determination, of learning how to adapt quickly, changing our game plan when we have a loss so we can turn into a win later, studying our enemy, our opponent, and that's what's important. That's what we're learning out there.
Some of the most important lessons around here come from failure. That's going to build character, that's going to build a type of adaptability, kind of intellectual adaptability, a resilience in the face of that failure that is going to be incredibly important to their role as naval officers.
When you think of rivalries, one big battle has to come to mind: Army-Navy. But in greater form, a championship game appearance on the line.
Getting another shot at Army is what we've been waiting for since that loss, and they weren't ready for what was going to come.
Good flash to the front! It's DiCarlo!
The second Army game, our mindset was our biggest change. We wanted it more. That's what gave us the edge.
Oh, how did that one go in? Bang, bang, play. DiCarlo finds another. Great fake. Beautiful goal for Tori DiCarlo. Her third goal of the game. 18-9, Navy are back to the championship game.
Yeah, I think if you ended with the Army win, it would be a full circle story. I know it's not the only story in our season, and Loyola has been a long time coming, but Loyola, we've never won.
If we would end the story on the victory over Army, which is huge, you miss the very essence of competition.
It only makes it worthwhile when there's a whole lot of challenges and adversities and that you can go right through it.
Competition is about total victory. It's that very mindset of we've got this, we can do this, we will win. That's what we're most interested in developing in all of these young men and women here.
I'm not sure exactly how much time's left, but I know it's under a minute. And I get the ball and I see a lane, and I figured now's the best time as ever to try. And then it happened, and we got another shot to keep going, and I just wanted to keep playing. So I was pretty happy.
And we need overtime.
You know, the more you prepare, the luckier you get. And we got a great check, and we got the ball back. And there wasn't much time in this first overtime, but you know, that huge breath of relief that we got another shot, we get another chance. And then we put it away.
Williams gets a step, low shot to score! Navy does it! The Mids, Patriot League Tournament champs!
Navy 14, Loyola 13. That's the type of lesson in resilience and perseverance and adaptability that you can't replicate in settings with lower consequences, with lower pressure. So there's something about the experience of intercollegiate athletics here that rounds out what midshipmen see and experience. And it's going to pay big dividends for our fleet and operating forces somewhere down the road.
On the fields of friendly strife, I've learned that those big moments of success or those huge pitfalls of loss don't just come on the biggest days. They're made weeks, months, years in advance with what you're doing. And what I'm gonna take with me is to never have any inkling of regret that I didn't do everything in my power to prepare for those big days on the small days when it felt insignificant.
We come back, in effect, to the same place that we have been before in this series of discussions, and that is preparation. There's absolutely no substitute for thorough, complete preparation for the task at hand.
Sometimes I think about how's being on this team, how does that help me, and how's it gonna give me a leg up when I'm training and when I'm preparing for flight school and any mission beyond that. Small things are gonna turn into hours of simulations by myself, hours of memorizations of flights and procedures, and I'm gonna take this same tenacity of doing small mundane things every day because later it's gonna matter. If I didn't catch that pass, we wouldn't have been able to keep going. It's those small things, and I don't know if one day or 100 days of wall ball made me be able to catch it, but I'm not gonna wonder. I'm not gonna wait and wonder. I'm just gonna keep going.